Welcome back to my class. Today we are going to study Robert Browning's poem My Last Duchess. As you know, Robert Browning was a Victorian poet who was also the poet laureate after Lord Tennyson, and Browning created a distinct identity of himself as a poet in his era by being quite different from almost all his contemporaries. As a poet, we find Browning exhibits amazingly subtle analysis of characters and their motive. His method is to take a character at a moment of crisis, and by allowing him to talk, he reveals not only his present thoughts and feelings but also his past history. He uses dramatic monologue as one of the chief technique of his poetic creation, and we know that dramatic monologue means it is the speech of a single character in the presence of another character, but the other character is always silent, and the speech of the character or the dramatic persona is meant for the readers, and through his speech the reader can enter into the thoughts and feelings of the character. So Browning was an exponent of this particular technique, and in his poetry he has extensively used this technique to bring out the psychological subtleties within the human mind. And his poetry can be divided into three categories, like philosophical or religious, love poetry, and of other themes or miscellaneous themes. Particularly, the dramatic monologue he used in these religious or philosophical as well as love poetry is quite remarkable. His chief concern was with the human soul, and taking interest in abnormal people, he projects himself into their minds and lay bare their feelings and motives. His poetry, at its best, achieves a noble dignity and a verbal music comparable with the master melody of Tennyson. But he is not very sustainable in his approach to the poetic expression. Therefore, we find also in his poetry when he engages himself in mental acrobatics with harsh rhythms and vocabulary. Coming back to My Last Duchess, the poem which was originally published in Dramatic Lyrics, the anthology, in 1842, is bringing out the relationship between man and woman. But Browning's most remarkable poetic achievement is the anthology Men and Women, which was published in love, that the emotion that we find in the love poetry of Elizabethan or the later Romantic period. Rather, his love poetry deals with mental aberrations, the exceptional situations or characteristics where very grotesque suggestiveness or images bring out the abnormality in the mind of the lover. So, my last Duchess deals with the same type of characters because through dramatic monologue, Browning explores the characters before the reader. So the poem begins, that is my last Duchess, painted on the wall, looking as if she were alive. So this poem is also taking a historical character like the Duke of Ferrara, who is visited by one emissary from a count whose daughter is proposed to the Duke of Ferrara for the marriage. The Duke is inviting that emissary to his uh, inner parlor, and there he is showing him the painting of his last Duchess, means the previous wife who is no more. That's my last Duchess painted on the wall. So the last Duchess is there in a painting on the wall, looking as if she were alive. But the painting is so lively that it looks as if it is not a painting, but it is a lively character coming out of the wall. I call that piece a wonder, and the Duke is taking the credit of possessing such a wonderful painting, which he is calling himself as a piece of wonder. Now, Fra Pendelop's hands worked busily a day, and there she stands. And he is bringing out the name of Fra Pendelop. Fra Pendelop is a fictitious character here, but the word Fra is probably suggesting friar, a very religious, moral person as a painter. Therefore, he is suggesting that his wife is being painted by a very moral painter, but a wonderful painter. His hands worked busily a day. Within a day, he could create this lively painting of the last Duchess. And there she stands, and there she is. So he is himself marveling at this painting and wants that the visitor also should marvel. Will it please you sit and look at her? I said, Fra Pendelop by design. He is instructing the visitor, the emissary, to sit before the painting and have a close look at it. And he is again repeating the name of the painter, Fra Pendelop by design, but never read strangers like you that pictured countenance. And he is boasting that Fra Pendelop is such a wonderful painter that the strangers like you, if you look at the countenance being designed by the painter, you will be finding there, you will be discovering there the depth and passion of its earnest glance. Each and every aspect of the countenance is being very vividly and very lively represented by the painter. So here the Duke is glorifying the painter, but it is not his objective. Through the glorification of the painter and the painting, he is glorifying his own power, his own position as a powerful and rich human being. But to myself they turn, since none puts by the curtain I have drawn for you but I. But immediately he is bringing a dramatic opposition to this excitement he is creating in the mind of the stranger or the visitor. He's telling, but to myself they turn. But this countenance, this look of the last Duchess is only turned at me. Since none puts by the curtain I have drawn for you. It is only meant for me. It is private, extremely private. But I have simply drawn the curtain for you to have a look at my last wife. And seemed as they would ask me if they durst, how such a glance came there. So not the first are you to turn and ask thus, sir. And he's telling whoever comes here and gets a look at this wonderful painting, always if they could dare, dust means dare, could ask that how such a divine, how such a great look or the glance is possible and the countenance of the last Duchess in her painting. Are you to turn and ask this, sir? And he is also asking the emissary, will you also ask the same question to me, sir? It was not her husband's presence only. And he is explaining himself that this beautiful glance, this wonderful glance is created by the presence of her husband. It is me who stood before her at that moment of fainting. She looked at me and she gave me such a lovely, wonderful glance that is being painted there. But it may not be the only reason of this wonderful, rare glance of beauty. Called that spot of joy into the Duchess' cheek. Perhaps Fra Pendlop chanced to say, her mental taps over my lady's wrist too much. So along with her husband's presence, which is responsible for that color and joy on the cheeks of the Duchess, it may also be the words of the painter Fra Pendlop, who might have said, her mental laps over my lady's wrist too much. The shawl of the lady is too much on her wrist. She should remove the shawl to make the painter paint her hands more beautifully and accurately. So, the very words of encouraging the Duchess to remove herself from her wrist also might have brought the blush on her beautiful cheeks. Or paint must never hope to reproduce the faint half flush that dies along her throat. Or Fra Pendlop might also have said to her that the color of my painting is unable to record, unable to depict the beautiful half flush on her cheeks. Therefore, he might have used or applied the color which is responsible for creating such a wonderful flush, such a wonderful color on the beautiful cheeks of the Duchess. Such stuff was courtesy, she thought, and cause enough for culling up that spot of joy. So, to all these requests, suggestions of the painter, the Duchess might have taken it as a courtesy to respond. So, she might have blushed fully to show the painter to paint her in that exceptional state of beauty and loveliness. She had a heart, how shall I say, too soon made glad. And now the dramatic persona, the Duke is immediately coming to analyze the character of the last Duchess by telling she had a beautiful heart which was soon made glad. It was so innocent, like a child's, that she could be pleased, she could be joyful with any small gesture, any small request, any small interaction. So she was very easygoing, innocent a creature, too easily impressed. She liked whatever she looked on, and her looks went everywhere. So she is an easily impressible character, and she liked whatever she looked on, whatever objects of this animated world she observed. Every object gave her happiness. She was such a wonderful character that she loved each and every part of the creation. Her looks went everywhere. Sir, it was all one. My favor at her breast, the drooping of the daylight in the west. But now the Duke is making an allegation, a complaint that she loved everything around, but to her, everything is of equal significance. He's making a comparison by telling that my favor at her breast, my gift of love to her, the beautiful necklace, the jewelry, or the ribbon, which is the gift of my love, and the drooping of the daylight in the west, or the setting sun in the western horizon, the bough of cherries some officious fool broke in the orchard for her, or any small official of the palace who visited her with a bough of cherry broken from the plant. All these things have no distinction for her. She loved everything equally. My gift of love, the most precious, expensive gift, and the nature or the small gestures of any ordinary people, they make equal impressions on her. The white mule she rode with round the terrace, all and each would draw from her alike the approving speech, or blush at least. Or even when she moved around on the terrace in a white mule, that also gave her the thrill, the excitement. So she appreciated all the speech, she appreciated all the gifts, she appreciated all the gestures equally. To her, everything is exciting, everything is beautiful. And she thanked men good, but thanked somehow, I know not how, as if she ranked my gift a 900 years old name with anybody's gift. She was such a wonderful lady. She thanked each and every one who came across her, who came on her way. She thanked everyone. She was thankful to all the gifts of God, all the people around, all the creatures around. But the Duke is regretting that she ranked my gift of 900 years old name. The Dukedom of Ferrara is of 900 years of old, so giving her my title, Duchess of Ferrara, she equated with anybody's gift. To her, richness and poverty, power and powerlessness, everything seems similar. So, being the loved one of the Duke of Ferrara also could not hold her away from appreciating any ordinary gift or any ordinary person around. Who would stoop to blame this sort of trifling? And the Duke is exhibiting his ego. He is telling that who will stoop to blame this sort of trifling? This is a blemish in the character of the Duchess. But who will tell her? Because who will tell her means here the Duke is telling, I can't tell her, because telling her that she is having the blemish means I have to stoop down. I have to degrade myself. Even had you skill in speech which I have not, or make your will quite clear to such an one and say, just this or that in you disgust me, here you miss or there exceeds the mark. And the Duke is also telling to the emissary that as an emissary, you are very excellent in speech, you are very excellent in speaking skill. Even if you would have clarified to her that she must she must discriminate between one and the other. Clear to such an one and say, just this or that in you disgust me, and your behavior of equality, your behavior of equating everything under the sun disgust me. But here you miss or there exceed the mark. And somewhere you are missing. That means you are not amply appreciating your husband and her and his position and his gifts. Rather, you are exceeding in praising the gifts and the people who belong to the lower ranks. And if she let herself be lessened show, nor plainly set her wits to yours pursue and made excuse. And she was also not a character who could have lessened herself, who could have learnt with the passage of the time, nor plainly set her wits to yours, nor she had the wits, the intelligence to mark the difference between one thing and the other, or the feelings of one people and the other, between me and other people around her. Forsook and made excuse, even then would be some stooping, and I choose never to stoop. Even to just indicate to her that there is some difference between my praising your beauty and others praising your beauty, or my appreciating your and others appreciating yours is definitely a stooping, and I don't want to stoop. Therefore, I choose never to stoop. Oh, sir, she smiled, no doubt, whenever I passed her, but who passed without much the same smile? But I was deeply in love with her. She was also in love with me. Therefore, whenever I came across her, she gave me that wonderful smile, that treasure of a smile. But there is a regret that who passed without much the same smile, but all other people who also came across her, they also get that beautiful smile from her that she offered me in my presence. This grief, I gave commands, then all smiles stopped together. So in this way, there was a growing anxiety and tension within me. Here, through the characterization, Browning is exploring the mind of the Duke, which was suffering from hatred, jealousy, and how it exploded into violence. Therefore, he commanded for her death. Then all smiles stopped together. So, she was killed by the command of the husband, the Duke. There she stands as if alive. She is no more. Her Body is gone, but she is alive in this painting. Will it please you rise? And immediately after describing this complex relationship between him and his last wife, he is asking the emissary, will you please rise? We will meet the company below then. I repeat, the Count your master's known munificence is ample warrant that no such just pretense of mine for dowry will be disallowed. So he is telling the emissary, let us go down where the other people of your troop are waiting. And he is also telling that your master, the Count, is a man of munificence, generosity. So he won't disallow me the just dowry, which will be respectable for a count like me. So here, the Count, the character of the Duke of Ferrara, is exhibiting a great ego, and he's taking the pride of being the Duke. So he is demanding a dowry from the marriage proposal that has come from the Count. Though his fair daughter's self as I abhorred at starting is my object. But immediately he is telling, but I am not after dowry. I want the very beautiful daughter of the Count. She is my most desired object. Nay, we will go together down, sir. But then he's telling, no, you don't go early. Let us go together. Notice Neptune though, because the Duke wants to show him, the emissary, something more. He wants to convince in the mind of the emissary exactly what he wants from this negotiation. So he's pointing out to another object in his parlor. Neptune, though taming a seahorse, thought a rarity which Claus of Innsbruck cast in bronze for me. There was a bronze image of Neptune, the god, taming a seahorse, which he claims had been made for him by another artist. It is also a fictitious name, Claus of Innsbruck. But this powerful image, through it, he is trying to show that he is a man who loves power and beauty, but he is also a man who wants to possess everything very strongly. He is a man of possession. Therefore, the Neptune taming the seahorse, he knows how to tame people. Therefore, he killed his last Duchess. And now that he is going to marry, so both the beautiful daughter of the Count and the dowry, they will both be possessed by him. So, in this dramatic monologue, through the use of these powerful images, he is showing that what is his objective in this new negotiation. So here we find that the poem is written in iambic pentameter. It is almost 28 couplets, rhyming couplets, and there are sufficient presentation of irony, characterization, and the historical setting, as well as some self-revelation in this character. But the most important thing that we will find in this poem is the ekphrasis, or through some paintings, how the whole theme is being depicted. The complexity of the human mind is being depicted. So that is the wonderful achievement of Browning as a poet. Now, from this poem, we can expect both thematic and structural questions. So, questions can be asked about what is a dramatic monologue and how far Browning has exploited this poetic device to create a proper character within the poetry, or how he had explored the inner recesses of the mind of the character. Or the question can also be asked about the character of the Duke of Ferrara or the dramatic person. So we can answer both these questions if we properly go through the poems, and already I have explained it line by line, and I hope you people will do justice to it in your exam. Thank you.